Welcome, everybody. This is the 85th episode of the #Investors podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and I am super pumped today because we got some true rock stars in the house. We got Josh and Steve with us out of Vancouver, Canada. We're going to talk about some really powerful things today because not only do they have a very successful real estate investment company, but they're doing it virtually from Canada and into the U.S. At least as far as I know, that's the only place that they're at right now is in the U.S. So, fellas, welcome to the call. How are you?
Great, Scott. How are you doing, man?
Doing well, man.
Just doing great. Just rocking and rolling here. Quick reminder, if you are getting value from the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We're on a mission here at Invest This, and we want to influence and impact as many people as we can to get their life and business moving at lightning speed. So if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and we'll get started here. So, why don't you give the listeners a little bit about your background? I don't even want to start with a bio because I just want to let you take it. Let the listeners know a little bit about your background and kind of what you're focused on now, and we'll get going.
Move this off?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. So I'm Josh, Steve. So we're in our fourth year in terms of wholesaling and real estate investing in the U.S., but we met 12, 15 years ago, bit of a debatable point. Working in sales together, spent a few years, doing that. And then we sort of kind of went our separate ways, right? Like I kind of transitioned a bit into project management type work and real estate development for a couple of years. But we've always, stayed really close. Steve and I, best friends. Steve was the best man at my wedding. Our boys are a year apart and they're close. So, we've managed to, keep in touch over the years. And about 4 years ago is when we came together with, this idea of going after business together. So.
Good. And as a primary wholesale business, is that right?
Yeah, we're majority wholesale business. We've done a few like cosmetic type flips, or what were supposed to be cosmetic type flips. And after our very brief experience with both of them, we've decided not to do those anymore. So we've stuck to wholesaling.
I'm just going to take a guess. You spent more money, spent more time, and didn't end up selling for what you wanted to sell it for. Is that about right?
Yeah, well, we more time, more money. We did sell it for what we thought we could sell it for, but yeah, at the end of the day, it was not worth the time or the money. We didn't really make a whole lot more off of it either, so it just was, lesson learned.
Yeah, that's what it is. And, I think it's an important piece for the listeners. I talked about this a lot on the show so far. Focus, right? Focus will get you further faster than anything else. And, staying in the wholesale market and only wholesaling and not trying to say, okay, well, we'll fix and flip the easy ones or whatever has allowed you guys to go pretty far. So 4 years ago you started, and how did that progression get to where you're at today? And we'll go from the very beginning, and then we'll end off with where you're at today and where your business looks like or what it looks like.
Yeah. So it was kind of just, one of those serendipitous type moments, right? Quite literally 4 years ago, back in November, right? I remember I worked a job. I was a sales manager for a company, an IT firm. Good job, paid well, 6 figures, doing well. But something was just missing. And I remember thinking of the word legacy. It was just something that I started thinking about. And I've always had aspirations to, starting my own company and running my own business. And then literally 2 days after that, we had a breakfast with our sons who are close in age. I think they were around 3 years old, 4 years old at the time. And Josh brought up the same thing. He's like, man, something about legacy and this, that, the other. And long story short, he's like, well, I have these tickets to the seminar in December. Do you want to go? I'm like, oh, okay. Part of me is like, I've always looked up to Josh, and just his business sense. And so the fact that he's even asking me to go was pretty cool. And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'll go. I don't know why you're asking me to go with you, but sure, let's go.
So scared.
And no idea.
Because I knew we were going to get sold, right? It was here in Vancouver. And
Yes.
but when you need something to change, like, okay, you got to do something different. So
I didn't even know what we were going to, but right, a seminar, and it was a real estate seminar. And in that seminar, there was this brief little thing about wholesaling properties, and we're like, what's that all about, right? And so, long story short, there, we went through the process. We were getting sold hard. We're like, no, something doesn't feel right here. It may have been the $40,000 that they wanted from us, and we're like, there's got to be a different way, right? And so. We went online and we started searching, and then we found Sean Terry and Kent Clothier and Justin Colby at the time, and they had just started, I think, their coaching program. And we're like, oh, those people sound right for us. Like, they down to earth, seem authentic, which we now know to be true. And we signed up for coaching with them. That was about, I'd say about 8 months after that seminar. So now we're in summer, 2016 or 2015.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah.
And, we had Justin Colby as our coach, and painful. We must have just driven him crazy because we overanalyzed everything.
Yeah.
We were horrible at making quick decisions.
Yeah.
We did stupid shit like starting our website, paying money for that, business cards.
Yeah, like, we're virtual wholesalers, and we went and had business cards made. Like, does that make any sense? But it legitimized what we felt we needed to be a business, right? And we all kind of make those mistakes, but
right.
Yeah.
So 2015, we're there. We finally, Justin, like, after a couple months, he's like, guys, you got to pick a market. Like, Vancouver's not your market. You decided that you don't want to do this here in Canada, so pick a market. We picked Austin, Texas. We just basically looked at Forbes top 10 list, and we're like, no, okay, there. And that's kind of what started off. And then, we had our first contract shortly after that, all through for sale by owner. We went on Craigslist, found a deal, crazy deal. I don't even know how we did this. It was a high price point, 600 something thousand. The guy was an attorney. I mean, just everything. The ARV wasn't even quite there, but it was a good area. Like, complete luck. Right. We got our first deal. We signed. We went to the first Find and Flip Summit that Kent and Sean and Justin did. And, they brought us up on stage, and we quit our jobs there at that.
Yeah, we basically
in San Diego. Yeah.
They put you up on stage. I know exactly what you're talking about. They put you up there. It's like, are you going to quit? You're going to do it? And they force you to do it, which is phenomenal. I love that.
300 people, pick a date. And at that point, so that was in beginning of January, Steve's point, we just had literally closed our first deal. It was like the 28th of December, 2015, made like $7,500 off of the deal. And we were still working our jobs, right? And we both had young kids and partners and all sorts of stuff. And so you can imagine the phone call at the event. So sweet. I just confessed to quitting my job. And I also had a job that I was really happy with, making good money, but sometimes you just gotta burn the boats, right?
Yeah, man, you gotta burn the boats, and ultimately you gotta follow your gut, right? And so for all the listeners out there, I met Steve first. I want to say it was around that same time,
Michael Burnoff.
Yeah, we met at a different event, personal development event by a guy named Michael Burnoff, which I don't know, that guy's superhuman for sure, but. It's so cool to see the progression you've got to now, right? So, you went to that event, you decided you're going to quit your job, and then you and Josh go back and you put your head down, right? And you start to really, okay, how do we make this a business? How do we make it flourish? How do we become profitable, et cetera, et cetera? So let's walk through that a little bit. When did you really see some big traction where you said, okay, we kind of figured this out. Let's run with it. Where did you see that?
Well, that would have been, I guess, probably, I'd say March, so 3 or 4 months after. And so when we came back from the event, Steve, quite literally quit his job like that Monday, which is pretty crazy. But that's Steve, and I love him for it. I actually stayed in my job for 8 months. And so, which I think, worked out well. Like, it was a challenge, right? Like, our team meetings, 8:00 at night on a Monday, like, we just had to kind of make it work, right? But it was probably around spring, March, April, where we kind of had our first big month. I think we did like a 30K month or something like that. And we were just like over the moon, right? It was a couple of deals. But it was, honestly, it was just, and Steve was in it, right, day to day, but it was just hitting the phones, talking to people, as many people as we can, sellers, wholesalers, realtors, starting to connect with buyers, and just basically building relationships, right? Doing it virtual, you absolutely, that was kind of the anchor for us getting our first few deals done, right?
You know, for me, like it's certainly that month, but I also look back and like those months happen like before they actually happen, if that makes sense. Like the what happens inside of your head, like in your mind, right? Like that's what's going to determine those sorts of months. So, you know, for us, like that happened back in January, although like the actual revenue hit us in April, like, but the belief that we could do 30,000 was like, okay, man, like that's a big number for us at the time, especially when you've done zero.
Absolutely.
And you quit your job and like, you know, you don't have, so you're like 30,000. Wow, that's going to be great. But that thought came into our mind in January that we could do it. So that's where it started.
That's a good point.
And that was like hearing people, you know, that had been there, done that, you know, and we're saying like, yeah, you guys you can do it. Just keep going, just move forward. Right.
So like, I want to stop, not stop the call at that point, but point out some takeaways that have led to where you're at now in your story. And that is, one, you made a decision. Two, you got a coach, you got somebody who had been there and done that, you know, that could push you further, faster, which was Justin Colby with Real Estate Worldwide. You joined into their coaching program, you know, you picked a market, and then you made the decision that, you know, this is what you're going to do. You saw some success and you figured out that, okay, this was something that was real. And I think those are big takeaways for people, because there's a lot of people that are on the fence and don't believe this could be real. Right.
Yeah.
It all starts with a decision, and, you know, you guys are a prime example of what that looks like. So keep going to the story.
Well, yeah. So something that Steve talks about a lot. And when I reflect now back over the past 4 years, where we've kind of gone through these ebbs and flows of growing our businesses around speed and the certainty behind it, right? So if I think back to that first 6 months, it was like speed. We were going as fast as we possibly could to get those first few deals done, and we weren't allowing ourselves to get in our way, right? And then as we've grown over the years, we've sort of gone through these plateaus, right, where we're not moving as quickly as we should, we're not making decisions, we're not being as decisive as we needed to be, right? And so for me, like when I think about the trajectory of our business and kind of where we are now, it's like we just are not allowing ourselves to get in the way. We're basically just taking action, fall forward, repeat, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that's kind of the evolution we've gone through. And there were a lot of peaks and valleys in terms of, you know, running it virtually to hiring staff, you know, locally in Texas, and then bringing back in-house partnerships that we thought would simplify, which was really just us trying to kind of find an easier way of doing it, where at the end of the day, like, you got to do the work, right? And so it's been a ride for sure, but it's great to kind of think back on all that.
Well, and that was actually one of the takeaways I meant to say as well, is just massive action, right? I mean, you decided and then you took massive action to get there. And like you just said, you know, there's times when you made shitty decisions and you fell forward and then you got up and you tried it again. And that's going to continue even in the future, right? I mean, you don't have everything figured out and the market's going to change, or it's going to go down, or, you know, whatever's going to happen in the world, and all of a sudden you're going to have to make some different choices and some different decisions, and you might fail forward again. But the important part is you're taking massive action, being decisive, and failing forward, right?
Yeah, and I think it's something, you know, and, you know, depending on who's listening here, I mean, this might be blatantly obvious, right? To certain people, they'll be like, yeah, you know, in order to succeed, you have to fail, because if you're failing, it's showing that you're taking risks, you're willing to go to places that most people aren't willing to go to, right? Like you're willing to take the risk and risk everything to see the fulfillment of your vision, your dream, whatever that is, right? So for some people that may make a lot of sense, but for other listeners who's listening to this, they might be in that position where they're like, I know that there's something more in me. Like, I know that there's more to life than what I'm living. And like, what do I do, right? And how do I get started? And the simple thing is just like, it's actually really simple, right? You just do it. Like, that's it. Like, it's not like this magical formula that, a lot of people I speak to, like, oh, well, when I have this, or when I'm at this stage, when I, make a few more there's a little more money in my bank account, I will. Those things are what we realized there on that stage, at that moment, happened in a split second, but things became very clear. And the thing that came to me at that time was, if not now, when?
Absolutely. I would say that is such an important piece just in life as well, right? Because if you're not grateful and happy with where you're at today, then you don't have any room to grow, for other things to happen to you in the future that might make your life better, or what, gratitude is something that I think is super, super important. And it kind of goes with what you just said. What would you, and there's tons of people that are just on the fence with it, right? They don't want to take the risk. They have a family and, they have a stable paying job like you guys did have. I mean, what is that advice you could give them other than just go do it? I mean, how else can they make a decision and, not be so fearful? What else can they do? That's a tough question, I know, because it's kind of blatantly obvious. It's like, well, just go do it. But it's not always that easy, right? I mean, it is that easy, but for some people to make that decision isn't always that easy. So could you give any advice there?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to my mind is ensuring that you're putting yourself in the right room. So, we all kind of need at times that shove, that support, that accountability, right? Like we all kind of go through these cycles and, and so for me, the fact that we put ourselves in that room, we made a commitment to, beyond our financial means, to do the coaching, to get into the mastermind group. Like that for me is something that really was like a catalyst to us growing, and to the point now where we talk about this. When I look back at the dips that we've gone through, there was almost always a correlation to us not being as active in investing in ourselves in terms of masterminds, in terms of the travel, getting out to different groups, the burn off events, all those sorts of things. And so for someone that I think is challenged to kind of break through, to kind of get that breakthrough, putting yourself in the room with a group of individuals that will help you do that, because it's not easy, right? And for someone that's comfortable, especially when you're comfortable, right? It's even harder, right? Sometimes, a lot of people get into this out of desperation. They have no choice. And those people actually, in my experience, tend to kind of go way quicker and scale and see success. Whereas those people that are kind of in that comfortable spot, it's hard to kind of push yourself out. And so these sort of groups and forums, and I think for me is a big thing that can help.
Yeah. So I mean, everything Josh said, I think is certainly, something that people need to do. I'll add to that though. Like, I think that, if someone's sitting here listening to this and they are thinking about their life and they have this desire to get started, whether, I mean, it's wholesale, let's just say business, like starting their own business. It doesn't necessarily have to be real estate, but they're looking to get started, and they have this kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say like this emptiness inside of them, but there's this knowing that there's something more that they can give, and they're just not doing it. I'd say, what I would look at is, the baseline. Okay, like this is where you're at right now. Okay, like this is the life that you have, and are you okay with that? Like, is this something that you could live with for the rest of your life? And if and there's something inside you that says, and for some people that's yes, that's fine. And that's totally cool. But for other people, that's not okay. And so then the question becomes, are you okay living that life for the rest of your life, knowing that you had this inside of you and you never let it out? That to me is where it starts. Because if the answer is yes to that question, then you owe it to yourself to get off your ass and get going as quickly as possible. Because there's something else inside of you that's being like, it's saying like, let me out of this cage. Let me create, let me provide. You have the ability to inspire humanity, and you are holding that gift inside, is what that means to me. And you got to get up and go. Like, that it's not going to be easy. You're going to fail lots. You're going to hit walls. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to stop. But every single time you push through that wall, there's something else that's even greater on the other side of that.
And you just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's great advice. Absolutely, for sure. Guys, I want to transition now. One of the big things, kind of going on what you just said, Steve, is adversity, right? And one of the major things that you've had to overcome is the adversity of location. You don't even market not only in your area, not even in your country. I mean, you're in Canada and you're marketing to Austin, Texas. So you're going across country line. This adversity is huge and you're still seeing success. So let's talk about what that looks like. How did you get started? What barriers do you have to overcome to do that? And, are you still running into barriers today with that? Is there anything that has to do with the Canada-US lines that matters? I mean, let's talk about that. Because that's a big piece, man. You probably don't understand how massive that is because you're in it from day to day, but it's huge. So let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, the Canadian-US, go if you're in Canada and you're looking to do deals in the US, like talk to a lawyer, talk to an accountant, right? The doing wholesaling isn't something that has been a barrier. Doing it both, doing it in the US. I guess for us, like it's again, I come back to the mentality side of things here, because every obstacle that I think that we've encountered has really been self-imposed, and it's like a limiting belief. It's something that we listen to. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. When we first started, we were doing everything over the phone sales, right? Like we were locking contracts over the phone, no sight unseen. And then we go and we speak to people and they're like, oh, well, you're missing opportunities, right? Like you're not there, you're missing out on deals. And so we're like, okay, well, let's hire someone, people, right? Yeah. So we start hiring people locally, and all of a sudden our sales go down. And we're like, well, this is kind of backwards, so maybe we need to sell, maybe we need to train better. Or so we're looking at okay. So then we realize, this year we're like, man, like we're really good at just getting property over the phone. Like we don't need to have local acquisitions people go into these properties for us. And so it's like little things like that we've learned along the way that we've always kind of known, but we put these roadblocks in front of ourselves for some reason, saying like, okay, well, this is what this person said and they're doing well, so we should probably do that. Just to come to find out, like, no, like we've always kind of known that we need to create an inside sales environment here in Vancouver. Josh said it from day one. And it's like little things like that you know what to do, but yet you second guess yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think those are more of the barriers. It's not, how competitive a market is. It's not about the marketing not working. It's like, well, what are we doing? Like, we're not actively taking a role, going granular with our marketing. So no wonder the marketing is not working.
Right.
We're not focused on it, like you said earlier. So it's like little things like that I think, have been more of the barriers. Or opportunity. I mean, it's one of the, like, it could be an opportunity, right? We realize what we're really good at now.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, like getting started, was a bit of ignorance. Like we didn't know what we didn't know either, right? It was sort of, what we knew is that we did not want to do it in Canada. And there's certain reasons why it just didn't make sense. So we picked the US and we just went, right? And so, I find, like, I talk to other wholesalers and investors doing deals, and they try to wrap their head around this idea of doing it virtually. And what I always tell them is that the fact that we're sitting here in Vancouver, 4,000 miles away from our market, in my opinion, is really no different than someone that has a team that's wholesaling in their own market. You still have people facilitating the different functions that are required. You're managing a team, you're managing a process, you have systems in place and relationships to be able to do what you need to do. So we just do it from a much further distance. And to Steve's point, like, what we've really honed in on is that we can do more of it here. We can actually do almost all of it from here, right? And have relationships in place as required. But for us, like, the tipping point was this idea of wanting to create an environment that we could get really excited about, right? And
well, a lot of people think that it's, it's crazy, but that's been your business model. You make that decision to move and to go do it. And it's really no different than somebody that's in their own market, right? I think that's very true, other than boots on the ground, but you have boots on the ground that are there, right? I mean, the buyers that are there and people that can facilitate that function for you, right? And so, and I think that, you mentioned that you could do more from there. Well, I also think the fact that you went to Austin, Texas, and you made a model that works, now pick your poison, pick your market, and just go do it again there, right? So ultimately, you can expand and grow your business exponentially because you make a market, you document how you do it, and then you just replicate that over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Which is huge. Now, where are you at now? For the listeners, where are you at now from a business standpoint, and what do you feel like it's gonna look like in 5 years from now? What are the next 5 years gonna look like for you?
It's pretty exciting. We've spent a lot of time this year focusing in on that exact question, like this vision that we really want to work towards, and now more than ever, it's crystal clear. So for us, emphasis on it right now is really it's building the team that we have in place. We're making a bunch of changes in terms of sort of the infrastructure and the tools that we use that will allow us to scale at a much quicker pace. And I think that's kind of maybe the stuck that we've had the past 6 months or so is really not having the right tools and infrastructure and process to be able to do what we do at volume, right? And so, we're basically just looking to kind of blow it out of the water this year, open up several new markets, and then 5 years from now, that's kind of blue ocean for us, right? Like, we see, our presence in every major market across the U.S., a massive team here in Vancouver. We're diversified into other, investment opportunities, maybe not all real estate, looking at education, a whole bunch of other opportunities with the idea of really just, for me, it's creating opportunity, right? Creating opportunity for ourselves, for our families, and for everyone else that we work with. Our staff, investors, you name it. Like, it's going broad and really leveraging, everything that we have going on.
Yeah, it's been really clear for us, like especially the last few weeks. You kind of go through this evolution, right? And where we're at today is with we have complete certainty in where we're going, and a lot of the things that you can't, like, we understand now that you can't account for everything right now. Like, you head in a general direction of what your vision is, and you expect it not to look like that, right? Like, but you're going in that direction, and it's going to look like something even better, probably. And so for us, we have become so very clear and focused on what it is that we're looking to achieve, that what's exciting for me is just how, and you hear this, people say this, but like how much like that you can literally create anything you want, right? That's where we're at right now. Like, we are in this visionary creative space right now where everything that we're doing, although it's complex and it's a lot of work, like, we're working longer hours now than we ever have, but I can tell you, I've never been so happy.
Because you're creating, right? You're creating value.
Right. We're not running around scared. Like what Josh mentioned earlier about, some of the peaks and valleys that we had. I can think of almost every valley that we had. You go through this, like, well, I've made $150,000 this month. Oh God, like, what if we never make that again? And you try to, like, protect yourself, right? It's that survival mechanism that kicks in.
You sabotage yourself.
And then you sabotage yourself. and so it's like, It's a really messed up thing that happens, but we all do it. But then you get to a point where you're like, I've gone through it all, right? Like, I know I'm okay. Like, I had an experience, about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, where I was literally laying up in bed at night looking at the ceiling, being like, I don't have, like, maybe 2 months left in my bank, right? That the credit cards tapped out, everything, right? I know Josh has also been there. And, all of a sudden, it's just like this presence of calm came over me and said, like, you're going to be okay. You just got to have faith. And the moment that happened, like, I've never worried financially about, we've had some pretty scary moments, that I just knew that we're going to be okay, right? And so once you get out of that fear and you step into this creative zone that we're in, man, it is, I don't know how to explain it. And you know it if you're in it. It's just like life is like being like you're living life. And to go back to the person who's like sitting there, listening, wondering if it's right for them or if they can do it. I was you. We were you. We're talking like this not to impress you, but rather to express to you that it can be done. It can be you too. So, where our vision is, like, we want to inspire humans. Like that's the big thing. Like I want to inspire younger, older generations, black, white, yellow, does not matter. We want to inspire people to be better versions of themselves. And that could be in the job that you're in. That could be, with your family. It could be with, going out and doing that thing, that entrepreneurial thing. But we gotta do it too, right? We can't just say it. We gotta show it. And if we show it, which we are, then we're going to impact change.
That's huge, man. That's a huge way to give back to people. And I think that, the people that are connected to you in any shape or way will see that. I mean, I've known you for quite a long time now, I guess the last 4 years. And although we don't get to spend a lot of time together, your purpose is, very visible. You can see that. You can see that in the way that you go about doing your business and the way that you've been able to bring people on and you continue to grow. And so I think that is massive. And I'm sure the listeners appreciate you sharing that piece of information. Now, to be fair on time here, are you guys ready for a lightning round? You've really shared a ton of value.
Yeah, sure. Lightning round. I love it.
This will be my first. Let's go.
I remember, Scott, like when I was at home, probably still in my pajamas, we were talking. I remember we had a few conversations there that were really, they meant a lot to me. And I know that you were going through some stuff too. So I remember those days, man. Like those are the days you look back at and you're like, wow, who was that person?
There's so much, throughout the business, there's all the personal stuff that goes along with it. But yeah, you go through challenges and those challenges empower you to be a better person at the end of the day. After those challenges, although they're very painful in some scenarios or they hurt or, it's adversity that comes up that you weren't expecting, whatever it is, those moments are what allow you to grow. And I'm a huge believer in that. So the fail forward, like you spoke about earlier in the call, that's how you grow. I'm a firm believer in that. So anyways, let's get after it. All right. Give me a time when you passed on a deal, and was that a good decision or bad decision, and why? Crickets.
Have we ever passed on a deal?
We probably should pass on more.
Yeah.
Pass on a deal. I think, if anything, we've always tried to get deals, but finding out that there's been a couple where we've had and we found another, wholesaler sold it for more and
walked away from.
That's a tough one. We try to do everything.
Yeah, but there have been a couple instances where sellers will double sign, right? And so although we can battle it, we just say, what, we got to walk away. It's not what we're doing. It's not why we're doing what we're doing, and whether or not the other wholesalers is being ethical about it, we just got to take the high road on it. So I'd say there's a handful of those situations where we've passed on a deal because it's not what we're in the business of doing, right? It's like we're going to provide value. Obviously, it's a business, we need to make money, but it's not at the expense of other people, right? So
this is the lightning round, I think, for us, right? We're not doing
we're
not doing a very good job. I promise you, we make quick decisions.
Yeah, right.
Not long, drawn out explanations of why you're doing what you're doing. It's all good.
We're Canadians. We're overly apologetic about everything, so it's kind of what we do. Yeah.
What's the last book that you read, and what was the impact you got from that?
Okay, I'm reading The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
Okay.
And really, it's just about setting your intention for the day and night, and just how to do that. I'm a big morning person, so for me, the impact is just what I can do in the hours that people are still sleeping is phenomenal, and it just sets my day up straight. It makes me, I believe, a better person. I can perform at a higher, higher level, And so that's the book that I'm actually just finishing right now. Next, I'm going to read a book by Bob Iger, who is the CEO of Disneyland.
Oh, sweet.
So that I'm looking forward to that book.
Steve's a big Disney guy.
Huge.
So I actually have 200. You're a Disney guy too, Scott?
No, I'm going there for the first time in like the 15th of November. So I'm pumped.
Okay.
It's
Gonna be a blast. I'm
That's awesome.
31 years old and I'm getting all excited about Disney.
do yourself a favor though, like just like look at what he created when you walk down that. Like it's just,
Mind blowing.
Apparently he actually came up with the idea watching his daughter on a merry-go-round, and that's where Disneyland came from. Yeah.
That's cool.
I like it.
So I'm reading, the one I just finished is The Hard Things About Hard Things.
Yep.
So, obviously there's a ton of stuff in there just in terms of like all the adversity that you're going to face as a CEO. So in general, it's sort of like a reference book that I can go back to and say, when we got to fire an executive or whatever the case, because we made a wrong decision, how do we handle that? So good book. The other one I'm reading right now is called The Big Why. And it was actually a gift from Haim, if you know who Haim is, virtual wholesaler. And that book, what I love about that is he basically ties kind of business principles to kind of the core purpose behind why you do it. So I just find, just as a point of reference, it's a good gut check that all the business stuff that you do is great, but without that inner clarity, it doesn't really matter. So
Amen to that, because personal development supersedes all other development, in my opinion. I mean, you have to be right inside before you can be right outside, right? That's a huge piece. Yeah. What are you trying to learn right now?
What not? I mean, like, I think for us, like for me personally, like learning just never stops. I'm learning at how to, motivate, inspire. Like that's huge for me. We have a sales team. We're growing our sales team here locally. So, learning how to be a better person for them and to help teach them, train them, help them become better is really kind of my focus here. And obviously both Josh and I see the importance of, like making people feel good about themselves, like helping them feel good about themselves, is huge for us. And so that's one thing. And then obviously just implementing, the systems and the tools and the process and whatever else that needs to happen in order to help them be successful is really what,
that's good.
Kind of what I'm focused in on right now.
To dumb that down, I'm going to say you're trying to learn to be a better leader.
Pretty much, yeah. Thanks, yeah. That's what I'm, better leader.
Better leader. I mean, because I only say that because I resonate exactly with that. I'm trying to do the same exact thing. I mean, and it's a skill that's learned over time, and it takes reading, and it takes focus, and it takes all the things that starting a business does to be a better leader. So, get it.
Yeah, so it's obviously all that Steve touched on. The one other thing that I've been focusing in on is a bit more self-reflection. So thanks to Steve and a couple conversations we've had over the last few weeks, really just trying to, I guess, learn and understand my story. I think a lot of people, talk about this idea of like having a why, like what's your why? Like, why do you do what you do? And if you don't have clarity about that, it's going to be really hard to overcome those points of adversity. But what I kind of gained from a conversation with Steve a few weeks back is really, before you can kind of have clarity around your why, you really need to understand your story, right? And it's kind of like, why is it that you do what you do? And so I quite literally like journaling my story, going right back to my furthest memory and going through all these different, and I have challenges with my memory, which I think is a bit of an indicator, right? That there's some stuff there that I gotta get into, but I've really just been trying to learn more about kind of just my story and the experiences that I've had and why I react the way I do in certain situations. And so that's been a pretty awesome sort of exercise to go through.
I think those are two very, very powerful things to be learning. And Josh, to touch on that, I mean, history repeats itself, right? So if you can understand what your history has been like and then make the appropriate course corrections to make it so that you don't have those same repeated issues come up in the future, I think that's a massive way to grow. So both of you are really working on some powerful stuff. You You guys have both been phenomenal in sharing kind of how the story has been with, virtual wholesaling, how you get started, the mindset required in order to get a business up and running, and how to get a virtual wholesale business up and running, and how to make it thrive and continue to thrive. How can the listeners reach you if they want to learn more, about you, about how to virtual wholesale, how they just want to be connected to some rock stars like you guys? Where can they find you at?
Social, for sure.
Yeah, social media. So I'm my handle on Instagram is officially just Steve.
Yeah, and mine is real Josh Alter.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll make sure to include that in the show notes. I know, I've seen your stuff on all the social media, so they're certainly present out there for all you listeners that want to know how to successfully wholesale houses virtually. I mean, these are the guys to go to. I really believe that. So,
and then our website too, right? Tallbridgeinvestments.com is another way, and then Facebook. Just look our names up, and you'll see us. So.
I want to give you a quick piece of credit here. I think I've got an email from you every day for like the last 4 years. I mean, every single day, not even like, oh, well, they missed it this day. It's every day. It's like the first thing comes to my mailbox, Tallbridge Real Estate. So amen, guys.
Yeah. Consistency.
Last piece of advice, it's all consistency.
All about you gotta be consistent.
Thanks for not unsubscribing from our list. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I haven't bought anything from you, but
all right.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys being here today. You shared a lot of golden nuggets for all the listeners out there, and I'm excited to stay in touch and keep connected, and maybe we'll revisit this again in the future to kind of do a recap on what's new and what else is working for you, and see how much you guys have started to dominate the world.
Awesome.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, Scott.
Yep,
Thanks,
very welcome. And all the listeners, once again, a quick reminder, if you're getting value from the podcast, please like and subscribe to the podcast so that we can keep this thing moving forward to our mission of keeping people moving forward at lightning speed. So, fellas, appreciate you very much, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, Scott.
All right, see ya.